Alright, so in this video, what I wanted to do was actually add a little bit more variation to the wood plank. So before we get into the high-res modeling portion of this particular wall, I want to go in and take care of this. Because right now, if you remember, we're just using the quick and dirty copy and transform. And now that is completely fine. You could completely just leave it like that. I just want to kind of vary some of the properties per copy on each of the wood planks. So what we need to do is what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a for each point loop, and I'm going to loop through a bunch of points. So we need to create some points for this. So I'm going to create a line, and now this line is just going to have 2 points. All right, and we need it pointing straight up in the y direction. And what I want to do is I want to get the height of the current plank in the y direction, and that's going to be the length of this line. So I'm going to say BB box strans, there it is, and I want the dy size. And the reason why I'm doing that, so now if we were to template this, so the reason why I'm doing this is because I need to copy a point for each of those particular wood planks in our wall. All right, so what I'm going to do here now is do a copy transform. Okay, so I'm setting up basically the template copy points like so. All right, so I want, in this case, I wanted 3 copies just to mimic this guy. And again, I need that y size so I know how far to translate each of these line copies up. There we go. So now I have the 3 copies. Okay, and then I want to do a fuse, because currently, if we look at the points, or the point numbers, we have duplicate points. So if I fuse, I get rid of all those extra points. And then we don't need the last number, because when we copied the last line, it has a point on top as well. So I just need that last bottom. So all I need to do now is do a group range. All right, and we'll just call this last point like so. And we'll go to points. And what I want to do is just increase that by 1 and then invert the range. So now I have the last point. And we'll just blast that. And we'll do last point. Oh, I didn't have this set up with the $OS. Okay, kind of threw me there for a sec. So now, there we go. Now we have our 3 points. So I'm going to pipe that into our for each block. And now what I want to do is utilize a copy to points node. Copy to points. All right. And we'll wire that up. So now let's take a look at what we've got. So let's go over here and take care of this right here. All right, so we have the line, and we need an input here. There we go. All right, so now we basically just replicated what we did with the copy transform. And you're probably asking yourself or telling yourself, well, that was a lot more nodes than just using this guy. Well, the cool thing that we can do now is for each of these copies that we're doing, we can actually go back upstream and change one of these parameters per copy. So we can give each of the copies variation, so it just doesn't look like we copied the one plank 3 times, right? All right, so let's take care of that. So I'm just going to pipe this back in. All right, since we have exactly what we had before. So now what I want to do is start to vary those copies. And to do that, we need to come up to the block begin node for the loop. Okay, and I want to create the meta import node. And this basically, if we take a look over here in the geometry spreadsheet. All right, so this particular node has a bunch of detail information on it. All right, and it's giving us the current iteration. So we can use that iteration to change values back upstream to the individual copies. Okay, so I'm going to rename this just so it's a lot easier to type. So I'm going to say plank loop data, like so. Okay, so now that we have each copy, we can actually go to this block end node and set the single pass. And this allows us to see each of the iterations. And I just find it useful so I can see what's happening. All right, so what I want to do now is come over here to the wood plank shape. And I want to, let's change the Z noise. So let's just kind of undulate it differently for each copy. All right, so, and let's actually just say we're going to increase the height or decrease the height. Or actually, let's just change the element size. Just for now, just so we can see, because you can go and set up parameters for all of these guys and create a really complex system here. But I really just want to get the core concept across. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to get the detail attribute from our loop data node. So I'm going to do the plank loop data, and I want the iteration attribute, and I want the first value since it is just a value. All right, and that right off the bat is giving us, you know, some value. That's why I kind of saw the geometry snap there. But what we're getting is we're getting a value from 0, 1, 2 for each iteration basically. Okay, what we want to do is have a little more control over that. So I'm going to do a randomize or rand function here. So, oops. All right, there we go. You can also hit Alt-E with your cursor over that field, and it'll pop open this guy and give a little bit more space. So I'm going to do rand detail attribute times some, you know, random number that I just picked. So 23 in this case. And then what I want to do is fit that number between a new range. So I'm going to say fit the rand, whatever the output of the rand function is. The original is 0 to 1. So this rand function will return a value between 0 to 1. So I want to remap that to something like 1 and let's say 5 for now. Let's just see how that looks. There we go. And with that done, if we come and down here and turn on these guys, you can see that each, and those numbers actually worked. That actually looks pretty good. So you can see each copy now is perturbed a little bit differently. They're not all the same. We can go and increase that a little bit more too. So you would just go and fudge these numbers. So maybe we do something like 1.5 to 10. That's making it a lot bigger. So we want to do to 2. There we go. So it's really subtle. We can also do something like 0.5. And again, you can just keep playing with these values until you get something that you like. You can also expose them to the tool so people can just play around. So like, let's just say we created a digital asset that just makes these wood walls, right? You could expose this value so that you get different looks, basically. Okay, so now what I want to do is, I think I'm going to put that back to 1.2 or something like that. That looks pretty good. And this, I like this one up at about 5. There we go. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to work on the high-res model. All right, sorry, that took me a second there to catch up. I was trying to figure out what I actually did want to do next. But that is basically that. So now we have some variation in the wood wall. And we've got everything all worked up and ready to go. Looks like we lost a little something here. So I'm going to go and fix that. And in the next video, we are going to start working on our high-res model. Thanks so much.